It's November 1st, 2014, and you're listening to episode 6.5 of The Road to Japan. Konnichiwa, minasan genki. Welcome to I don't even know what you want to call this, like maybe a half episode of the Road to Japan. My name is Nico, I'll be your host as usual. You're probably wondering what the strange noise is, strange noise, just why this might sound a little different than my normal episodes. And the reason is because you're actually getting this show from my kitchen. Before I go on, I'm going to take off my headphones because this is actually take two, since I had started recording and left my headphones on, and then I reached around to grab something and tugged on the cord, which then knocked over the recorder and all that stuff. So that actually wasn't really that good of an idea. But thankfully my recorder is a very tough little device and very resilient, so it hit the floor, but it's still ticking. So just give me a moment here. I'm gonna take off my headphones. Now, because I'm not wearing my headphones, I have zero idea of how this is gonna sound. For all I know, this could end up being unusable audio. But the reason that I'm doing this from my kitchen is actually an idea I got from one of the other shows that I listen to. If you recall, when I had talked a couple weeks ago about shows that I like to listen to, one of them was Finding Japan, and again, you'd have to go to the older archives of the show, which you can still do. The original host doesn't do it anymore because he no longer is in Japan, as far as I know. Because that show was based on him only being there for about a year and a half. I'm not exactly sure, but he was doing it as part of like a work thing. He wasn't doing something like what I'm doing, which is trying to actually move and live there for, at the very least, an extended amount of time. But one of the things that he would do from time to time with his show was that he would podcast while he was perhaps doing something else, namely cooking. And I got the idea because, I mean, I wanted to do a show this week, but didn't really have like an actual topic or anything set up, and I didn't want to bother with sitting down and making a bunch of notes, because I've been doing a lot already today. It's Saturday night for any of you that might care. But I figured I'm going to be making dinner, so why not do things a little differently and have you basically come along for the ride. So I've got a beer cracked. I'm going to just kind of prepare. I'm preparing not only tonight's dinner, but I'm also preparing tomorrow's dinner as well. That's actually going to be the majority of the work I'm going to be doing. That beer's delicious. For those of you that might be interested, I'm drinking a Night Train, which I think is a local brew here in Wisconsin, but I hear that you can find those outside, at least in the Midwest. But if you live elsewhere, then I really don't know. So what am I going to talk about while I'm doing this lovely cooking work? Well, I'm actually, one of the things that I'm making is another dish for my slow cooker. And actually, I have no idea how this is going to turn out, because I'm kind of doing this on my own. Like, I'm not following a recipe or anything, which normally I do, because it's much easier for me to follow instructions as opposed to being creative. I'm not really the creative type. But if you give me like guidelines to follow or directions, then I can usually do pretty well with that. So this is an attempt to try something creative, and I just thought of, you know, basically things that I enjoy cooking and eating, and so I'm just going to try and mix them together. So I have my rice cooker going, making a bunch of rice, and then I'm going to mix that with some chicken breast pieces that I'm going to cut up here in a moment, and then I'm going to throw in some chopped onions, which I think also have peppers mixed in because it's like a frozen batch or whatever, and then some mushrooms, and then I'm gonna add like cans of cream of chicken and cream of mushroom, and then I'm just gonna throw it in the slow cooker for, I don't know, or half dozen hours or something. See what we get. So you're gonna hear my voice kind of fade in and out more than likely as I'm moving around, so bear with me. Like I said, this audio might not even be usable, so it may just go in the vault of episodes, and maybe I'll release it someday as a lost episode or something. But there's not terrible amount of things going on at the moment, but I've been doing a lot of buying. I've been buying a lot of stuff. I did get the copy of My Japanese Coach for my Nintendo DS, and I've been using it a little bit. I haven't had a lot of time to use it, but from what I've done, I mean, it's actually pretty solid. I mean, the first thing I would mention is that it is not an all-in-one, this will make you fluent application. However, I would definitely feel that it's a very useful tool for anyone that is looking to learn Japanese, especially if you are trying to maybe become fluent someday. And the interesting thing to note is that regardless of your level, you will, when you start up the game, I will just call it a game because it is on the DS, even though it's kind of more like a program. But for the sake of keeping everything concise, I'll just call it a game. But when you fire it up, the first thing you do obviously is make a profile, and then you kind of take like this survey, and it gives you 50 questions, and the moment you get 2 questions wrong, it stops the questionnaire, because this is to gauge your Japanese ability. Now, of course, you can end up being like my friend when I showed it to him, and I had him kind of do the questionnaire real quick, and he has like the, I don't know what you would call it, like the common person's knowledge of Japanese. So I mean, he knows like the basics, like maybe konnichiwa and sayonara and things like that, but he doesn't know much beyond that. And he took it, and I think he was able to get up to maybe 5 or 6 questions answered. And then when the questionnaire is done, regardless of where you are, then it places you. And if you're someone like me that has a bit more knowledge of Japanese but is still a beginner, you're still like, I got all but one question correct on it, and the one I got wrong was just me not taking the extra half a second to realize what I was about to hit, and I just hit the wrong answer and immediately realized my mistake. But upon completion of all 50 questions correct, it still only starts you at lesson 11 and ranks you as having the knowledge of a Japanese. I think I'm ranked as like a preschooler. So it's that's where you're going to be regardless of your level, whether you are a master and completely fluent in the language, or if you're if you have zero ability. That's, you're not gonna start any higher than lesson 11. And I mean, I'm perfectly okay with that. it's said that because I was able to jump to lesson 11, that I had already mastered something like 105 words or something like that. It might be 107, but it said I had already mastered several words before the questionnaire. And the really nice thing is that it incorporates a variety of learning styles. So this is thanks to basically the technology in the DS. The only thing I would say is that because, at least for me, I'm using a DS Lite, which is the smaller versions of the DS, and it impacts the game in that way because anytime you're trying to read kanji, sometimes the kanji is too small, and if you've seen kanji, sometimes it can get very complex, just as far as the type of pictograph it's trying to display. And I mean, I would say even unless you were like a fluent native Japanese speaker, you would have to probably do like kind of what we as English speakers do from time to time, which is like derive certain words that you might not be able to read by the words around them that are readable. I notice I do that occasionally, and I figure the same case might be there. Like if you were able to read kanji around the one you're not able to understand, then maybe it would help give meaning to the one you're trying to read. But what's nice about this game is that every lesson there's something like 10 words, I think, that you focus on per lesson, which there are, at least if my math is correct, there's something like 90 lessons. So that's quite a few words that you're going over. And for each lesson, each word within the lesson is allowing you to read it, obviously. And when I say read it, they give it in Romaji, which I don't know if I've covered Romaji yet. If I haven't, Romaji is basically Japanese, but written in English characters. So it's basically like, even if you don't have any Japanese experience as far as reading kana or kanji, Romaji still allows you to be able to at least read a word. And so that's how they start you out in the game. But my understanding is that in later lessons they will switch over to using kana for all the English, or not English, but for all the like when you start learning kanji, my guess would be that at some point it's going to switch over to, instead of explaining its meaning or reading in Romaji, it will do so in kana. So you might see the kanji for Jin, which is a person, but you'll actually see the kana form written as G, and then the sound, the N. N has its own sound in Japanese, which it kind of in written form looks kind of like an H. But normally, like for now, if I were to come across Jin, it would just be written Jin, like English. But I believe that it'll switch to kana later. But what else is nice is that every word allows you to hear it, obviously. So you hear it spoken. And at least from what I can tell from it, it sounds like it's a native speaker saying these words. So I mean, you hear proper pronunciation as far as I can tell. And then on top of that, you can also utilize the microphone in the DS to speak. Basically, you can read the word, and then it will give you the option to compare it to the native speaker that they have in there. So like if you're learning the word hito, then you can pronounce hito, and then it will play your track along with the native speaker's track to see how you compare. And then you can go from there. But then there's also what's really, really nice, which is probably what I will be taking most advantage of, is the fact that you can also write these words out. So for now, I'm just learning. I'm just at the lessons that give you words that don't necessarily have kanji. They just have kana. So what you're doing is you're spelling out the word, but you're doing so in kana. And they have a specific type of game where it's called fading characters. So they will show you the stroke order for kana, or I assume kanji later, and then you trace over it, and then the second time it'll be kind of slightly faded, so it'll be like a gray, and then you trace over it again, and then the third time it's completely blank and you got to do it on your own. So it's a good way to get the writing of certain things down. And then there's a game that tests your ability to write it out completely on your own without any tracing assistance. So I'll be taking advantage of that as I move forward, because writing is probably my weakest point. Like my reading is okay, and you know, my speaking is what it is. I just need to obviously work on vocabulary and grammar like normal. But writing, I just don't do a lot of writing, and I haven't for several years. So this will help to maybe boost that a little bit. So I'm gonna rinse off my hand here because I'm done cutting up my chicken, and I'm just basically throwing everything into my slow cooker here. So it's looking like it's already half full, which is good, because that means it'll provide a lot of food. So now I'm gonna pull out my little mix of onions and, what is it? Onions, red peppers, green peppers, and parsley. So that sounds good. So we'll do that, and then obviously the rice will be the last thing that gets added, because that's in the process of cooking right now. And then I'll move on to my actual dinner that I'm going to eat tonight, which is very simple. It's just going to be some ramen and a sandwich, because I don't really feel like doing a lot of work, because I'm doing that right now. But we shall see how that slow cooker recipe turns out. It looks promising. That's all I can say right now. So going with I'm not going to do any more talk on the Japanese coach for now. I'll just leave it at that. Mainly because I haven't really had a lot of time to use it. I try to use it here and there, like when I'm on my lunch break, but that doesn't really allow me a whole lot of time regardless. So yeah, I'll just probably touch on it from time to time as I get more opportunities to use it. But another huge purchase that I've made today, well, I suppose I should preface that by saying that I requested an extension on my, well, I guess extension is not the correct term, because it's not having to do with time, but I requested additional funds for my student loan, mainly because I did get the information regarding my accelerated program, which I don't know if I've mentioned on the show yet, but I'm in talks with my advisor just to kind of get the information ironed out to make sure I'm ready to go when registration begins in a couple weeks. But one thing that I was expecting him to say, but yet all the while still kind of disappointed about, is the fact that the student aid, or the FAFSA, does not change if you're in an accelerated program. So what that means is my financial aid will still only be the base amount from the FAFSA, even though the tuition for these classes, because it's now double, since my classes are only going to go half a semester, but they're still back to back. And so what that means is that basically I'm going from needing to owe somewhere around like $1,800 a semester to closer to $3,600 a semester. And I still have to, and my financial aid will only still cover about half of that, give or take. So I have to figure out a way to come up with the remaining amount. So what I did is I requested a additional loan, which I don't know the exact terms of it, but basically it just gets added to your base amount. So I think at this point now I'm officially like $6,000 in debt, and I still got at least a year or two to go before I have my bachelor's degree. But that's the way it is, right? Everyone has to buy a degree as well as get learning done with it, which, I mean, my views on that kind of flip-flop depending on what day it is. Some days I'm very okay with it, and other days I'm extremely furious at the way our education system is. But I mean, that can obviously be debated till we're all blue in the face, so I'm not really going to bother with that right now. All I know is that I need to do what I got to do to get my education and achieve my goals. So anyway, moving along with that, all that babbling there, I got now I know exactly how all of this works, which is basically, you get sent your money upon approval, whether it's FAFSA or this, like additional loan that I have, and the money gets sent to your school. Now, what's interesting is that if you do not have any outstanding tuition, well, I should say if you do, then the tuition, whatever your remaining tuition is, will get taken out of that amount, obviously. So it basically goes to cover your tuition. So say you, well, I'll give you an example. My tuition, where was I at? I still owed, I think, $1,200 in tuition for this semester, and then my FAFSA came through for the $1,750 or whatever that amount would be. And then, so what they did is they used that money to pay off that $1,200. So now my tuition is covered. And then they will cut you a check, which they then just send in the mail. Now, this is probably not news for anybody that's, forgive my wrapping there. I'm trying to keep as much sauce in the pot and not on my spatula here. But that may not be news for any of you that have been in school for a while. I'm sure you're probably thinking like, well, yeah, duh, we already knew that. Tell us something we don't know. But that information is more for perhaps someone who's getting ready for college, because I sure as hell didn't know how financial aid worked. So, you know, if I had known that's how things work, then it might have helped me to better prepare. So hopefully that information will help someone else better prepare. But basically, so what I'm getting at is that the additional loan came through, and then because my tuition was already covered because I had my FAFSA go through earlier, probably about a month or two ago, they were able just to send the entire amount to me. So they cut me a check, and now I have additional funds. So I have to obviously be a responsible adult and not go blowing that money on crap I don't need. However, I did make a purchase that I feel will be very vital to my college experience, which was I finally purchased a laptop. Mainly because I haven't had a proper laptop. The last time I bought a laptop was 2006, which if you're a computer nerd, you can already tell, you know, what kind of laptop that would have been back in those days. And it was probably, as you might imagine, it was very low end. It was a very cheap laptop on top of that. I did purchase it at Fry's, but I paid, what did I pay? Something like $500-600 for it at the time. And it worked great for that time. Like, it was an awesome laptop at the time. But it had, this will make the computer nerds cringe. It had megabytes of RAM as opposed to gigs of RAM, which to common people is not really going to sound, it's not going to sound one way or the other. But to a computer geek, that just basically means that this thing was slow as hell. And I actually wasn't very knowledgeable about computers as I am today, so I couldn't tell you what the remaining innards of it was. It probably only had like a, I don't know, 150 gigabyte hard drive or something, and I don't know what the processor was, but I'm sure it was slow as I almost cussed there. I try not to cuss on the show, aside from, like, I try to keep it like PG, you know. I do cuss in my daily life, so if you know me personally, then you'll probably hear me swear at some point, especially if I'm frustrated or irritated, which seems to happen more now that I'm in school. Funny, huh? But yeah, basically, I needed a new laptop, and I have for quite a while. I just didn't have what I felt was a legitimate enough reason to get one, or save the money for that matter. So with this money that I got for the additional loan, I'm putting the rest away, but I did decide to get a nice laptop. I didn't break the bank on it, but I did make sure that I was spending a high enough amount that this would hopefully future-proof a little bit. So, you know, it's got an i7 processor, which is still pretty good. At least as far as I know, there's not any i8s, but it's like a 4th generation. It's pretty nice. And it also allows for some pretty decent gaming on it. So, you know, if I get a break here and there, I might, you know, throw a game up on my Steam collection and, you know, have some fun. But what's most important is that it makes my capability of doing homework much more effective and mobile. Because, I mean, half the time I'm out and about. I'm not really at home. So it limits my time to properly write papers and things like that. And especially do my math homework, because my math homework is done on a browser, but it requires certain plugins that I can't use, that make it so I can't use my phone to do my homework, or my tablet for that matter. So that'll make things a lot easier. And I actually shot an email out to my math teacher requesting that she allow me to use the laptop while I'm in class, because I haven't, you know, I'm not a failing student in her class. I'm still holding at a 94%, which she's aware of. And the thing is, you know, and I mean, I've already mentioned on the show, so this is nothing new to you guys. But you know, I get in the class and I do all the problems for the section that we're working on, and while I'm waiting for her to move on to the next section so that I can start doing those problems, I'm sitting there effectively bored for anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. So I started bringing in my psychology homework to pass the time and still make valuable use of my time while I'm doing it. So I shot a request to her asking, if I'd be able to use the laptop for purposes like that, either doing my math homework, since now I could do it on my laptop, or continuing to do psychology homework, but doing it a little bit more real time. Because what I'm doing right now is I'm having to print out the quizzes and assignments and all that stuff, and then do the answers on the printed paper, and then input them back into the test sometime later that week when I have time. And if I'm doing it on a laptop, it saves me paper, and I can, again, kind of do it more in real time. I'm just seeing it as an effective time saver, as well as being, I'll probably discover other things that it allows me to do as well that I hadn't thought of before. So, for me, it was a justified purchase. Yes, it probably is money I shouldn't necessarily be spending right now because I do have to save up for tuition and whatnot, but I don't know. I always make sure that I have things figured out when I need to have them figured out. That's how I've been able to survive so long. It seems that there's a lot of people out there that aren't able to say, yeah, I live on my own, and don't really have a lot of issues because of that. Whereas, don't get me wrong, there definitely were a lot of years in the beginning where I did struggle financially, because, like I said, I've made some poor financial choices, but I made sure to use each one as a learning experience, that I wasn't just allowing history to repeat itself. Because if you're allowing history to repeat itself, then you're pretty much as good as screwed. Which is not necessarily a nice way to put it, but that's kind of how I feel. So, like I said, the rice is done already? Huh. Okay. Cool. Then I guess I can just throw this all in. So basically what I've done is I've just mixed all my ingredients together. Now I'm going to throw the rice in and mix that up. And then I'm just going to, I just mixed it all in the slow cooker pot. And I'm just going to stick that in the fridge, and then sometime tomorrow in the late morning, early afternoon, just plug the cooker in and just let it go for, I don't know, however long it needs to go. And then we'll see. I'll report on the next episode how it turns out. Yeah, I think actually maybe I'll just leave it at that. I don't know what this is going to sound like after it's all edited. I'm not going to bother with the normal stuff. Like, I'll put the intro and outro music, and you've already heard me do the date and everything. But I won't bother with I'm not going to do a Japan note or anything like that, or the track you can skip, and basically all that normal show stuff I've been slowly cooking. Oh, I do want to mention that there is a new segment that I want to start, probably with the next episode. And I'm not going to do that right now, because I honestly am not prepared to do it right now, but I do have the idea. And this also was something that I stole from Finding Japan. This was something that he started doing, because I'm going through his old episodes, so technically these are several years old, these episodes that I'm listening to. But I'm glad I'm listening to them, because they're giving me ideas for my own show. But what he's doing is he will formulate questions that he is asking to his future self. So in his in regards to his show, he's asking things like, how is your Japanese ability improved? Again, asking his future self this. And he's also asking questions in reference to ones that he wants to answer in like 3 months, 6 months to a year. So I'm going to start doing that. I may not have a lot to start with, but the way I see it is that this show will at least be going on for a year or two. So, you know, and I might not obviously put like a calendar time on them. Like I might not say a year. It'll probably be more in line with, trying to get this rice off here. Be more in line with probably as I'm completing stuff or achieving like milestones, as you might think. So there'll definitely be questions that I'll want to answer like when I'm finishing my accelerator program, to see like how that all turned out. And then definitely some questions that I would ask as I'm getting into my Japanese studies, and you know, as I get deeper and deeper into that. And then you know, definitely some questions I would want to answer for in regards to when I complete everything, and hopefully I'm on my way to getting to work, live, and teach in Japan. So I figured that might be interesting. And then again, if you have any suggestions, maybe 4 questions that I should ask myself, feel free to write in. Email at theroadtojapan.com, or you can tweet at theroadtojapan. And I mean, you can even get involved with this yourself if you want to. So I can just make, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, if it is like a calendar type question, then I will just go into my Google Calendar and, you know, go to a year from now, and then type up that question as I'm basically asking it on the show. I'll probably do it either before or after the show is actually recorded, but then I'll just get a reminder as I'm about to record whatever episode that may be at the time. So what I mentioned when I was saying that you could join in is that you can also send questions maybe for yourself. Like if you're in college and you got interesting goals ahead of you, just like I do, you're welcome to write in and tell me what those questions are, and I'll throw them on the calendar. And then, you know, as the time of reckoning approaches, then I can just make sure to call you out on the show. I'm not going to contact you directly or anything unless I have maybe that information and your permission. But then, you know, then we can follow up, you know, kind of make it an interactive experience, which is kind of what I've always been trying to do with this show. So, you know, feel free to write in. Man, that crock pot filled up perfectly. Yeah, if this turns out really well, I may just pass along the recipe to you guys. Granted, I just told you what it was. Oh, yeah. Oh, that looks good. That looks like it's going to be very delicious tomorrow. But yeah, definitely write in if you got anything. And then like I said, I'll have those questions for myself ready to go with the next episode. I know I have at least a couple brewing, but I'm not gonna bother talking about them right now. So I'm gonna finish making my dinner here, but I'm gonna let you guys go to contemplate all this stuff. So hopefully this didn't turn out too poorly. Forgive my kind of in and out. You know, the microphone where you are, your ears, so to speak, is stationary, and I'm moving around all around you. So, you know, if my voice is kind of coming in and out, that's why. But hopefully this did okay. I don't know how many more episodes like this I might do if this turned out to be all right. I may let you guys be the judge of that, but for now, this has been episode, I don't know, 6.5, I suppose, of The Road to Japan. My name is Nico, and I will catch you next time. Minasan ganbatte.